Hey folks, welcome back. So this week, the first thing we're going to work on is, as you recall, we finished up last week by doing some work on this wood stove here, and this is the stove that is going to go up in the loft of the mill house. Now, I picked this thing up for cheap, and as you could tell, it was not in the greatest of shape. It had some rust on it. It had been coated at one point with some high temp paint, which a lot of that had flaked off. It just didn't go well with the little bit of rust that was getting underneath it, and it was just peeling off like crazy, but there's still some of that left on there. We're trying to get that old paint off, get the rust off, and then we are refinishing it in some stove polish, which is basically just some wax, and there must be some sort of black coloring in there of some sort. I don't know. A little bit more of a natural finish on it, I guess you could say. So we're just gonna pick up where we left off last week and see if we can't get this thing finished off. Alright, well, I do think that this paint remover did help. I wasn't sure if it would or not because this high temperature paint is pretty tough stuff, but it definitely did seem to come off easier, even though it wasn't just peeling right off. I do think that it was sanding off easier than it had without putting any of this remover on there. So we're just going to put a little bit of this stuff on here where it didn't want to come off so well, and let that set. We'll move around to the front, do a little bit of work on that, and circle back around here to the back. Road trip, or at least a short one anyhow. So yesterday when I was out at the farm working on the stove, I got a call from Mercer Glass and Mirror, which is the place that I'm getting my replacement paints from, and they said that my stuff was finally ready. So today we are heading on up into West Virginia because the local place that did replacement paints was actually about twice as much as this place up in West Virginia. Now it's about 45 minutes versus 25 minutes to the local place, but for half the cost, I'll take the extra driving. Alright, well it's pretty late here today, but I wanted to get these new panes moved out of the truck, get them out here before I, accidentally throw something on top of them and break them or something like that. So let's get these moved out, got them all stacked up right there, nice and pretty on the seat. And then I want to see if we can't work on the stove a little bit and maybe get that finished up this evening. Alright, last day for this week, and so the first thing I want to do is get this stove moved up into the loft and get it out of here. But I did just notice that I kind of forgot to do the legs on here, get those cleaned up. So we're going to do that real quick. It shouldn't take but a couple minutes just to clean those up and put a little bit of that stove polish on it. We get those done, then we actually got to go up towards the road and get the loader, bring that down here, put the forks on it, and then we can put that stove up into the loft. Okay, so real quick here before we put the forks on, while we've got the bucket still on here, we're going to add a little bit of tension to the tracks because they're sounding a little bit loose. So the way the tension works on these tracks is you can see that this front part here is kind of separate from the rest of the carriage. And the reason for that is that this part can move forward and backwards, which of course kind of stretches out the tracks or loosens them up a little bit. So what we want to do is if we remove this plate right here, there is a grease fitting underneath there, and that is kind of what is in the cylinder in there that makes this move forward and back. Alright, with the cover off, we can pop this thing onto the grease fitting there. And if you look real close to the track, you can see it moving just a little bit. And I think that ought to do it. Alright, well we finally got a wood stove up here. Now of course it's not really going to do us any good yet until we cut a hole in the ceiling and run the pipe up through there. But we don't need any heat up here for a while yet anyways. Now I was hoping to get this moved kind of off to the side, but apparently these little casters here, the weight rating on them was, we'll call it optimistic. So I've got a furniture moving dolly that I think should be able to support the weight on this. So we'll bring that out here next week and get this thing moved out of the way so it's not right in the middle of our loading doors. Now some of you may be wondering, Josh, I thought that you were getting some more logs this week, and that was the plan. I talked with the guy. I was supposed to be going over Wednesday evening, I believe it, but on Tuesday evening, I think, the guy sent me a text, and he's a real small group. It's just him and another guy. We'll call him more mature. And he said, Josh, I'm sorry. He said, we're gonna have to hold off another week or two. He said, the guy that I work with, he just had a stroke. So, needless to say, we are kind of on hold for a little bit. He said, Hopefully I'll be able to get you some here in the next week or two, but he said there's no way I'm going to be able to get those on Wednesday, so we are on hold again on logs, so that's why we're kind of working on some of these other little projects still. I've got some more little odds and ends of stuff that we can continue to work on here, but for the time being, at least for the next week, maybe 2 weeks, we're still going to be on hold with doing more milling for the bridge, but you know, that's okay. It is what it is, and there certainly is not a lack of things to do around here. Alright, so for our last little bit of time here today, what we're going to do is we're going to throw the bucket back on the loader, and we're going to go do some work on the driveway because we've had some pretty heavy rainstorms over the last week, and as you may be aware, gravel driveways on a decent slope do not fare well with rainstorms. And it wasn't in the greatest of shape before this, but now it's in even rougher shape after having had this rain. So we're going to go do a little bit of work on that. Alrighty folks, well, it's not as nice as I'd like it to be, but it's certainly a whole lot better than it was. It really needs about 20 loads of gravel dumped on it to fill in all the gaps and cover over all the rougher stuff, but that's not gonna happen for quite a while, I don't think. So this is gonna be it for this week's video. I've kind of got some little odds and ends of some projects that I want to work on around here, so that's what we'll be doing next week. I really don't think that we'll be getting any logs in to start back up with doing some more milling for deck boards for the bridge. I don't think that's gonna happen, but we'll make good use of our time that we're out here. So this is gonna be it for this video. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you next time.